Something is building right now. You can feel it. The mind is louder. The emotions are closer to the surface. There's a pressure we're under to try to figure things out. And at the same time, there is a seed, a beginning, a sense that something wants to move, to get started. And this isn't just another full moon. This is a blood moon. It's a worm moon, and it's a full lunar eclipse, which means something has to end. But something is also trying to begin at the exact same time. So if you're stuck in your head right now, this message is for you. Well, hey, gorgeous. I'm Tara Kinden, founder of Bioenergetic Somatics and the creator behind frequency-led leadership. I work at the intersection of astrology, of human design, of bringing the nervous system and the body all together. My lens is so simple. The sky is always speaking to us, and the body is where it actually gets a chance to land. So let's talk about what this eclipse actually means, not just astrologically, but energetically and somatically. Well, a lot of people are calling this a blood moon. And yes, during a total lunar eclipse, the Earth casts a shadow over the moon, which gives it this deep red glow, and that is happening. Symbolically, that blood moon represents a culmination, an exposure, and a revelation. And at this point, as I'm recording this, we're all seeing what that looks like. But this is also a worm moon, and the March full moon, named as the worm moon, is a time when the soil begins to soften and those worms start to come to the surface. So while the blood moon speaks to the endings, the worm moon is speaking to the beginnings. The soil is softening. Well, if you're in the northern hemisphere anyways. The ground is beginning to ready itself for the seeds to be planted. And that tension that's happening between the endings and the beginnings, that's what the medicine of this eclipse will be talking to. The moon doesn't create more water. It moves what's already there. And that's really important because during a full moon, especially an eclipse, people tend to think something new is happening to them, but it's not actually. It's just amplified energy. The tide doesn't manufacture the ocean. It reveals what's beneath the current. And the same thing happens inside of our bodies. We are electrical beings. We talked about this in the last video I created called, how your nervous system runs on sort of that bioelectric current. I'll tag it below. But the heart is electrical. The brain is electrical. Every thought, every impulse, every contraction carries a charge with it. The moon influences the water. Water carries conductivity. So when lunar energy rises, your internal current also rises. Not meant to harm you, but it helps to move what's been stagnant. That's why emotions always feel so much closer to the surface during eclipses. Not because we're unstable, but because something is being stirred beneath the surface. And here's where we're going to bring this inward. There is an outer tide, that's the ocean, and then there is an inner tide, and that's your inner being, your breath, your emotional rhythm, your hormonal cycles, the nervous system oscillation between activation and rest. So the moon doesn't overwhelm the tide, it strengthens the pull, and the pull reveals what you've been holding onto. The eclipse is emotional because the solar plexus energy is activated. So instead of trying to suppress that surge, we're going to find a way to work with it. And this is why I talk about the inner tide all the time. This is why I called it my membership, because when you understand your internal rhythm, you stop interpreting intensity as danger. If this idea of electricity and emotional current is new to you, I did go deeper with that as well in the last video, where we talked about charge and how it builds up in the body and how you can discharge it in safer ways. But for now, just remember this. The moon is not here to flood you or sweep you out into the ocean of emotion. It's here to help move you. And if something feels strong right now, ask yourself, what's trying to shift? Because tides don't ever destroy the shoreline. They just help to reshape it. And I'm also of the mindset that when something comes forward for you, it's coming forward for a reason. And that reason is probably because you're outside of the pattern now and you're able to find ways to heal the one thing that's coming forward. All right, so now let's get down to business on the astrology. So you can see the chart here. This is the wonderful chart we're working with for this full moon in Virgo. All right, so when the moon is opposite the sun, that shows you it is a full moon in illumination. Now, I also want to mention the human design, which we'll touch on briefly, but the sun is in gate 63. This is the gate about curiosity, but it can also be doubt. So it's an invitation, as everything is, of course. We want to think about the idea that the mind wants answers. And remember, this moon is conjunct the south node. So there is an element of like release and doubt. Being opposite that gate is fascinating. But anyways, before we dive into gates, let's just think about this energy. The mind wants answers. It wants to solve things. It wants to analyze. It wants certainty. Well, that's impossible. The moon and the earth are down here in gate 64 when I'm looking at the human design in Virgo here, right? And that's the gate of imagination and that big idea, that big vision. So we have this tension because the sun is in the gate of curiosity, of doubt. And so this is the tension that's kind of building. And the mind wants proof. The mind wants proof, but the soul wants possibility. Jupiter here in Cancer is at 15 degrees, so halfway through Cancer. Think about Cancer, the home, the body, and Virgo is also about the body. This can be the home, the physical home you're in, your physical body. It can mean multiple things, but Jupiter only wants to expand this energy. Gate 53 is where Jupiter finds himself, and this is the gate of beginnings. So how perfect is that we're so focused on beginning? This is where do you plant your seed? Something wants to get started here, but if you wait until you have the answer to every single question, it's never going to happen. You're never going to plant the seed, and that's kind of the trap. The moon as well as Jupiter are working together. This is a positive aspect for them to work together. Then we also have the trine up here from Jupiter to the sun. So Jupiter's kind of like, can we just calm the mind so we can get this thing started? Let's plant the seed. But what are we releasing to plant the seed? And I do think we're releasing doubt. We're releasing doubt. We're releasing our inability to move things forward because we're so paranoid about the thing. Now, of course, there are 1,000 other people doing videos on this, and my goal is not to break down the astrology and the human design for it, but to show you where this might show up in the body. So I also want to keep in mind that we have Mercury here, we have Venus here. They're still conjunct, it's a little bit wide, but they are still working together. And I think these beautiful insights are coming into the mind. And Venus is like, how do we make this beautiful? So let's talk about the human design. Let me stop this share. This is the human design chart that you are now seeing. Full moon in Virgo vibes. And let's jump in. So the head center is open. The ajna is open. The heart, by open, I mean this is undefined. So we're amplifying this energy, amplifying. You see that there are no gates coming off the spleen center. And this means that we are amplifying every single bit of this energy. And what is happening right now? A lot of people are really stuck in fear. Okay. So when the head center is open, the heart is open, the sacral is undefined, the spleen is undefined. This means we are very impressionable in these areas of our body right now. Okay. Fear can be amplified, doubt can be amplified, propaganda can also be amplified, and the emotional solar plexus is activated and defined. So we are all in our feels. There is no escaping your feels right now. And it's not a bad thing because we've talked so much about the inner tide and what you're feeling and how to navigate it and what will come out of this if you stay with the feelings and you let them find a voice. And you let the impulses that come, like the pulse to take action, if you let it process through feeling, creative outlet, humming, singing, moving, move the issues through the tissues, let the waters flow and find words for them, you will be able to clearly understand what needs to be planted. That's my thought on it. But emotions are strong, and this is important. You got to watch not spinning out into anxiety. And like I was mentioning just a little bit earlier in this video, is about getting swept out into the ocean of emotion, because that is possible. So use the creativity for fuel. Use this extra emotional energy for something good. Don't let it spin you out of control. Venus is inspiring us to use, Venus is here in gate 36. She's inspiring us to use this emotional energy for something beautiful. That's what Venus does. She makes things beautiful. She helps us be magnetic. And then Mercury, where is he? Right here in gate 22, also in the emotional solar plexus, I might add, is encouraging us to surrender control. You cannot control the outcome. You have to have this leap of faith that it's going to work out in your favor, and having this undeniable belief comes from the gate of spirit, where we have Saturn and Neptune in Aries being like, have the faith, hold the faith, whatever your faith is. It doesn't need to be God. It can be, and if you don't resonate with God, think of good orderly direction. Think of just being in the faith that it's going to work out, even if you can't see how. You cannot start something meaningful from a place of panic, and that is just facts. You can only start from faith. You absolutely can only start from faith. So again, there are lots of people doing full breakdown of the astrology and the human design. Go find them, come back, and then lean into the somatic piece. So now let's integrate this down into the body. So now what do we actually do with all of this information? Because you're now overloaded with info, and insights are powerful, but insight without embodiment just becomes too much thinking, which I was telling you not to do in this video. And this eclipse is already amplifying that mind-based energy. So we don't solve this in our heads. We have to bring it down into the body. And as you're understanding this, remember, emotions are energy. They move. But when they're not expressed properly, they don't disappear. They get stored. Remember, anger, frustration, resentment, unspoken grief in traditional medicine goes straight to the liver. And that's where the liver processes anger and stagnation. So when emotion doesn't move, the liver can feel congested, not just physically, but energetically. You might begin to feel a tightness in your ribs, pressure in your chest, inability that feels disproportionate to the issue. And the answer isn't suppression, it's movement. And that might look like, just shaking it out, going for a walk, doing a workout that lets the charge discharge. It might look like singing at the top of your lungs in your car, or just humming and stimulating the vagus nerve, writing a letter you never sent and then burning it. Fire transforms. So does sound, so does breath. After movement, there must always be rest to relax. But this is not about pushing harder. This is about allowing the charge to rise and then settle. Support your kidneys. In Chinese medicine, the kidneys hold fear. So gentle practices help here. Things like Tai Chi, Qigong, slow grounded walking, breathing really low in the belly, and letting your nervous system feel safe again, not through control or manipulation, but through rhythm, because the body regulates through rhythm. And here's something I want to offer. At the end of this video, I'm going to include a short tuning fork session, nothing long, nothing overwhelming, because that's the last thing you need, but just a few sacred moments, a frequency to help you settle your system. So if you're someone who feels this energy strongly, stay with me to the end. Let your body fully land, because we don't want to just understand this eclipse. We want to be able to metabolize it, and that does not happen in the mind. I cannot say that enough. It happens in your beautiful body. All right, gorgeous. Let's land this plane. The eclipse that is here is not here to overwhelm you. It is here to move what has been stagnant, what has been lying just beneath the surface. And your mind may feel really loud. The emotions may feel close to the surface. But underneath all of that, there is a seed, a beautiful little seed that wants to begin something new. The only thing you are being asked to do is to release the pressure to have it all figured out so that this inner tide can move. Let the emotions rise and fall and remember that tide. Let the body process what the mind cannot. And if this feels like something someone in your life needs to hear right now, maybe a sister, a friend, a woman who has been holding too much, please share this with her. Because sometimes the right frequency at the right moment can change absolutely everything. And if you're going to stay for the tuning, it is time to soften your shoulders, to unclench your jaw, and to let your breath drop all the way down into your lower belly. I'll guide you into a few minutes of sound to help your whole system come off the edge. And as we close, remember who you came here to be. Okay, friends, I've got 3 forks that I'm going to be using. We're going to start by breaking up some of this density. So this is the 174, and you can take a deep breath in and exhale out. Just feeling anything that's been stagnant, beginning to release, beginning to break up a little bit. Just shake it out. I'm going to soften the edges with the 222. And now I'm just going to bring in our 528, just allowing you to receive that big juicy idea, that big inspiration, receiving some support, some nourishment. And just one more. Just opening up this beautiful vortex to receive into your heart this juicy idea that's ready for you. Thanks for being here, everyone. Take care.